Let's push towards it, never regress, and let's remember if ever we get down, the places that we came from now, and all the good times on the bad side of town, the upside of bad, flip it upside down. Came from the bottom, but we up high now. Believe, and from this view we achieve. We look back at the moves we received, and how we broke those. Narrow that we wrote those, and the ghost still alive in the photos. Down to the summer, things go wide, cold wind blowing through a city on fire. Moments in the past, came here to find you, not to relive them, just to remind you.
And welcome to Wise Ass Sports Radio. Chad, how you doing, buddy?
Man, I'm good. How are you, bud?
Doing good, man. Doing good. So, lots to talk about with regards to the NBA free agency. LBJ decides he's taking his talents back home. You know, it's just, did you see it coming? I mean, I was just like, you kind of felt it, but then you listen to Chris Broussard and you listen to all these people, and they're all like, well, we don't know what they're going to do. And then they're saying, oh, best thing for him to do, go back to Miami. What did they say today? Best thing for him to do, go back to Cleveland.
Yeah, man, I don't think anybody really kind of, a lot of people speculated, but I think with, with him meeting with Bosch and Wade prior to the actual announcement, the movie truck showing up at his house, just so many little bitty things here and there. I think you can kind of read between the lines. I think people were really kind of sitting on edge all week. I know I was really kind of, personally, I was tired of seeing it on my Twitter feeds. I was tired of seeing it on social media feeds. You really couldn't get on anywhere without having to see that. So I was really ready for him to just kind of come out with it. Talking about that, I kind of really, I dug the way that he did the SEC, he did the Sports Illustrated, essay. Some people may not like it. Some people say, oh, it was cowardly. He didn't come out and tell anybody, blah, blah, blah. Actually, I think it was a lot classier than doing what he did when he went to Miami, which was the whole stage effect deal. And not talking about one, not two, not three, that whole deal. So I really like that this, to me, seemed like a more mature LeBron. And he's going back to Cleveland to do it for his hometown, not for the fame, not for the glory.
Yeah, with me, I never liked LeBron. So everybody's just, well, you're just hating him because he's going back to Cleveland, and, like you hated him because he left Cleveland. And I'm just like, here's my situation with the whole thing. It's not that I'm like, oh, man, I can't believe he's going back to Cleveland. It's just the whole, dude, it feels like it's been all summer, man. That's all we've heard, and Melo's the same way. Like, I talked about that with Melo. Melo's the same way. But everyone's like, well, Melo's just waiting because LeBron hasn't come back. It's just this whole thing of, it's always got to be about me. I know what you said, hey, man, it's respectable they did that Sports Illustrated article, and I respect that. Like, it was totally respectable. It was totally, heartfelt, I believe. But it's just so funny, man. Would this have happened if Miami would have won the championship? Would he have been like, I still want to go back to Cleveland? That's what I wonder. And it almost is like, I kind of wish that Miami would have won, which is crazy for me to say, but it's just me sitting here saying, okay, you got old Wade, you got Bosch, who everybody's like, oh, he's just totally overpaid. He's nothing more than a glorified shooting guard now because all he does is hang out behind the three-point line. So everybody's sitting there saying, the Miami Heat's roster as it is right now is old. And they got Ray Allen, Birdman. Birdman's good for what he does, but it's still one of those things where you're just sitting there and you're like, if they would have won, would he have went back? And that's what I want. That's what I want to know. I want to hear him say, I didn't leave Miami because we lost and we were getting older. I left because I really did want to come back. And I know he said it in his article, but I want to hear him say it live to us. But I have no problems with him going back. I think with him going back, the NBA is going to be a whole lot more fun next year because, LeBron in Cleveland wasn't as hated as when LeBron left. I mean, LeBron was probably enemy number one in the United States as far as when he left. And it was because of the stupid press conference that he held and, this big old, debacle on ESPN. They had a whole, what was it, an hour-long debate on there, and then he finally announced where he's going to go. So, I think him going to Cleveland is good for the NBA. But I'm just not sold on, everybody saying, oh, they're instant title contenders right now. They're really young. They're really, really young. Kyrie Irving, he's constantly injury prone. He's that way at Duke. He's been that way in the NBA. And now you got to look at it. You got Andrew Wiggins. Andrew Wiggins is 19. He hasn't played a single second of NBA action. You got Anthony Bennett. To this point, I don't know if you agree with this. He's been a huge bust. #1 overall pick. Did nothing. Nothing for them. So, you look at it and you're like, do they have enough? They're definitely athletic. They're more athletic, in my opinion, than when he left to go to Miami. Miami was not as athletic as this team is now. So he's definitely going to, favor in that as far as running up and down the court. But, a lot of people are, already saying, Vegas has already got him, was it 4-1 odds to win? And now Miami's kind of flip-flopped. They're like 100-1 odds to win. So I'm not ready. I'm not sold on that. I definitely agree with Miami. Miami is not doing anything. I don't care if they have Bosh and Wade to it. Who else is on the roster? Because Ray Allen, from my knowledge, is going to Cleveland. That's what I'm hearing. Ray Allen's going to Cleveland. So who else do they have on the roster? Shabazz Napier? Yeah, great. Congratulations. He won a national title. He still hasn't played in the NBA yet. Birdman. Is he really going to be the role player he was with LeBron and them? I doubt it.
Man, the whole thing with that is that, you kind of mentioned and you alluded to it that Wade has, Wade is aging. There was concerns with that. Bosh is just an overpaid player. Let's just get it out there. Right now, I mean, how do you pay a guy $118 million, to do a job that guys were making far less than that a year? Doing that in the NBA, to me, Bosh is so overrated. And if you're a Miami fan, whatever, you're not loving Miami because of Bosh. I can promise you that. He's probably one of the weakest link of the three that was there. Even with D Wade being suffering the injuries that he dealt with all last season, I feel like he still carried quite a bit of weight for the Miami Heat. That being said, Cleveland, yeah, it's a young team. All of a sudden, Vegas is like 4-1 odds. It's got everybody jumping through the roof. You got people showing up at Cubs baseball games with burnt holes in old LeBron jerseys, man. I mean, it's like mass hysteria. These people are walking around. They're pulling jerseys out that they had black tape on, that they had burnt, and they're wearing this stuff out in public now. And it's like, and then, of course, we see the videos of people burning Miami Heat jerseys, and then they're turning around, and, one guy's got the lighter right next to the jersey, and he says, oh, hell, man, I done paid too much money for this, and he can't even burn it. So, I mean, it's like, you got all these people that are so emotionally wrapped up in this, and I'm kind of like, well, if you didn't see the writing on the wall when he first went to Miami to begin with, then that's bad on you. Because never once when LeBron decided to take his talents to South Beach did I ever think that he was going to stay there for the rest of his career. Cleveland is his home. He's grown up in Akron. He's a local boy. I mean, he wants home is where the heart is, kind of thing. And he's been always all about supporting Akron. He's got a foundation in Akron. I mean, he helps the local communities. I mean, he is about raising that community up, which is something that a lot of guys, people want to give LeBron a lot of hate, but there's a lot of people in the NBA that can really learn a lesson from this guy because he is giving back to his communities, and there's not a lot of people that do that in the NBA. Once they make their money, it's all about me. My next shoe contract, I'm going to be on Wheaties. I'm going to go out to the strip club and make it rain. I'm going to do whatever I can to be about me. And I think that, LeBron, for whatever people want to say about him, I feel like LeBron is not that guy. I feel like LeBron is actually, I have a little bit of respect for him for going back to Cleveland, actually, and doing the city justice, not so much doing himself justice and hanging out in Miami. That being said, Brent, I think the big guy that's left on the free agent board right now is Melo. And last we heard it was between Chicago and New York. And me and you both kind of went back and forth on Melo, and I'll be straight up with you and everybody else. I think he's a prima donna, and I do not want him in Chicago. I am a Bulls fan. I don't want that guy. No defense playing. Tampon wearing New York Nick. I don't want him in Chicago. I just think he can't. He doesn't play defense. Melo is the antithesis of what we're talking about with LeBron. Melo is all about Melo, and he's not. And he's about making the money. He's going to go where the money's at. He's going to go where he can make his career last longer.
Right, and see, that's the whole thing. Is that's why I'm like, yeah, I give respect to LeBron for going back to Cleveland. Going back to where he was raised and all that. And you look at Melo on the other hand. Melo, was very, very greedy when he left the Nuggets. Obviously, when he first left, the Nuggets, he had never gotten out of the first round with them. He still has only gotten out of the first round once with the Knicks. And it's just, if you want a guy who's going to shoot 50 shots a night to score 28 points, 30 points, then Melo's your guy. And he might as well not even go back on defense because like you said, he plays none. If he goes to the Bulls, will he help the Bulls? Will he improve the Bulls? Yes, he will. From an offensive standpoint, he will improve the Bulls because that's their biggest problem. When Rose is there, they don't have any scoring other than Rose either attacking the basket or Noah down low. Right now that's all they have. So Melo will improve the scoring, but more than likely Melo's not going to the Bulls because he's going to lose out on $50 million. And like you said, most of the players nowadays are all about the money. So I don't really see him leaving $50 million on the table to go play with the Bulls where he might not even have a chance to win a title there because it's, if D Rose isn't healthy, they're not winning a title. They're just not going to. They don't have enough assets, and Melo is going to run that team to the ground. So I see what you're saying. If you're a Bulls fan, you can't be happy about Melo possibly going there. If I'm a Bulls fan, I'm like, no way, man. No way in hell am I having Melo on my team. Melo is definitely one of those selfish players. So, but it's time for him to decide, right? I mean, holy crap, what is it? It's July 12th now. It's time for him to go ahead.
LeBron, man. Let's be straight up. He ain't LeBron. I mean, Melo is Melo. I mean, honestly, if you're a New York Knick, do you want to keep him on your team? Do you want this guy to stay with you? I mean, you just picked up Phil. You got Fish as your head coach, which basically is going to be Phil Part 2. It's going to be mini-me. And, do you really want Melo to stay on the team, or do you want to embrace Phil Jackson and Fisher doing what they need to do to get the New York Knicks back together? To me, I think Melo is a virus, man. I think he's a virus on the team.
But, I 100% agree. And, before we continue on that, I almost forgot about this. So, you're Pat Riley, right? LeBron leaves today. Technically, they said nobody knew. I have a hard time believing that Miami and Cleveland found out via the same way we did. I just don't see that. Oh man, come on now. Somebody had to know. Somebody had to know. But regardless, you're Pat Riley. LeBron leaves, and the next thing you do is you give Bosh a max deal. That is crazy, bro. Pat Riley, what are you doing, man? That is nuts. I would have said, okay, go ahead, go to the Rockets. We'll keep Wade. We'll pay him the money because he's been loyal to the Heat. We'll pay him the money. That's fine. And we'll start rebuilding. Bosh, in my opinion, sets them back 4 or 5 years. I mean, they're not going to win a title, man. Wade, Bosh, like we already said, they're not winning a title. So Miami winning a title is not going to happen with at least the next, I would go on a limb to say the next 7 or 8 years. They're not even going to be contenders. They're already saying, oh, we're going to go out and get Luol Deng. Great. Congratulations. Luol Deng couldn't even help the Chicago Bulls when the Chicago Bulls were, had a nice roster.
Exactly.
So now, got Luol Deng possibly coming, and they're like, oh, well, we got Wade, Bosh, Luol Deng. You still got sorry-ass Chalmers on your roster. Yeah, you got Shabazz Napier. Is he going to help instantly? Probably not. He could, but he played terrible the other day. I know when he played against my Celtics, him and Marcus Smart were going at it, and I believe, if I'm correct, he ended up having like 8 turnovers in just a summer league game. While Marcus Smart for the Celtics hasn't played great. I mean, the other day, I think they showed stats. He was shooting 9 for 32 through 3 games. Terrible numbers. But in my opinion, Marcus Smart has a lot more hope than Shabazz Napier. I know a lot of people might get pissed off about that, but that's just me. And everybody's gonna say I'm biased because I'm a Celtics fan. That's just looking at it right now. And Marcus Smart is also going to learn under Rondo. I mean, what better point guard do you want to learn under than Rondo? I mean, everybody's like, well, he can't shoot. Yeah, but he's a true point guard. You know, that's what point guard is supposed to do. Facilitate the offense, you know, get everybody where they're supposed to be. So I just look at it and I'm like, man, Pat Riley, what are you doing? Bosh? Max deal? Please, man, that's terrible.
I can't, and that's what we were talking about a while ago. I can't give Bosh any kind of credit because there's been a lot of games where he hasn't showed up, and a lot of people are like, well, you know, some people can comment about his play in the playoffs this last tournament, this last season. Okay, he had some good games, I'll give you that. But if you go back and look at him as far as, you know, his play, he is far from consistent, and he's far from deserving a max deal. I mean, I've heard so many comments from analysts and everything else joking about, hey, man, I need to find another job if this guy's getting a max deal. And I'll be honest with you, if he's getting $100+ million, then, man, I need to be getting part of that because that's just ridiculous that a guy that, you know, he's not Dwight Howard, he's not a Kobe, he's not one of the premier players in the league, and yet a max deal. And to me, that's crazy. But yeah, kind of jumping back in with the Melo situation. You know, I was kind of taken back when Melo visited Houston and LA. I really thought that from what I was hearing coming out of LA that things went really well there. But the style that Melo plays and then Kobe, I think there would be some clash. I mean, but Kobe's Kobe's not going to take any flack off of Melo.
They're going to have 2 balls. There's not enough balls to go around. They both want the ball in their hand constantly.
Exactly. And like you were saying earlier, Melo's good on the offensive side of the ball. If you want buckets, Melo's your guy. And in Houston, I feel like Melo could have been a help to Houston for sure. I feel like that was that made sense to me that he would go to Houston. Chicago, just knowing how Coach Tibbs is, I just don't see how Melo would fit because that defense is what Chicago prides itself on. You know, they've had to play hardcore, hard-nosed defense because they've lost their playmaker for the last 2 seasons. Luol Deng may not be a showstopper, but I mean he's a role player, and that's what
he's a role player.
Yeah, Miami's going to get a role player by going after him. They're going to get a guy who's a role player. They're not going to get a stud. That being said, I'm still curious to see how the rest of free agency shakes out. I just saw where Nick has re-signed with LA for 4 years for $21.5 million. So he's staying in LA.
What about Eric Bledsoe? Eric Bledsoe's still on the table. He hasn't re-signed anywhere. You know, he's not been re-signed by the Lakers yet. Where's Eric Bledsoe going to go? And I was talking with some people today. You know, Eric Bledsoe, in my opinion, where he should go if this organization doesn't offer him, I would be very shocked. I think he'd be a perfect fit for the Pacers. Bledsoe is a little undersized to play the 1, but he could play the 2. You know, he's undersized to play the 2, but he could still play the 2 on an occasion. You know, Indiana's already got Lance Stevenson right now. You know, Lance Stevenson's kind of, it's up in the air where he's going to go, but they got George Hill. George Hill's trash. That was the worst ever trade that I've ever seen. You trade away Kawhi Leonard to get George Hill, and Kawhi Leonard, bam, now MVP of the finals. So that Indiana kind of got the rough end of that deal. But you bring in a guy like Eric Bledsoe. You know, if let's just say they lose Lance Stevenson, you could technically run Eric Bledsoe. I could see Eric Bledsoe taking over the starting role over George Hill. He's far more rounded, better player than George Hill in my opinion. So if Indiana doesn't go after him, I'd be kind of shocked because that could be that piece that they're missing. And if they can get Paul George to play that superstar that he is all the time, and then get Roy Hibbert's sorry ass to not put up 0-0s or all the way across the board in a playoff game. If they can get everybody to buy into the system, I could see Frank Vogel, doing wonders with that team just by getting Eric Bledsoe. I'm not saying they're going to go to the finals. I'm just saying they could give Cleveland, if Cleveland is in the Eastern Conference Finals next year, they could give them a run for their money. Unlike this year where it was, come on, it was everybody saw that coming whenever the Pacers and the Heat met in the Eastern Conference Finals that they weren't getting past the Heat. But when you look at the Heat, getting back to LeBron, being there. Technically, they were a shot away from losing the finals the year before this year. So, you get to the finals, what was it? They've got to the finals 4 years in a row, lost to Dallas, and won back-to-backs. If they would have lost against the Spurs and then met the Spurs this year, I would have been, it would have been no question that the Heat were definitely falling apart. But it goes back to Bosh getting paid the max money. LeBron was carrying that team for almost 3 years, 4 years, 3 out of the 4 years. The first year it was a team effort, total team effort. The first year they were there, they just got beat by the better team. Dallas was just loaded. You got Dirk, you had Jason Terry, you had Tyson Chandler there. So you had a lot of players there. So it was no shock that Dallas won. I mean, it was a great finals, but it was just, nobody was really shocked. At least I wasn't shocked. I wasn't like, oh my God, Dallas won. I can't believe they beat the Heat. But, LeBron really, really carried the Heat in the past 3 years, in my opinion. I mean, Wade, his sorry ass was doing nothing constantly, especially in the playoffs. He would have a kind of a glimmer of what he used to be. But Wade's just been deteriorating for quite some time now. Age really caught up with him fast. You look at other players that have aged well. Wade, in my opinion, is not one of them. He is just not aged well, and I don't know if it's because he's a very aggressive player, is constantly slashing to the basket. I don't know if that has something to do with it on his body, but this Miami Heat team, man,
He's had to play on his own though, Brent. You know what I'm saying? Like Wade,
oh yeah, no question.
Before Bosh and LeBron got down there, it was the Wade show. I mean,
yeah. I can remember sitting there watching before LeBron left, and this was the last year the Celtics made the finals. I remember watching Wade, and Wade pretty much carried them against the Celtics that first round. I mean, they lost 4-1, but Wade kept them in games, and if they didn't have Wade, it'd have been 4-0 sweep. They'd have been putting in the bench players in the second half. I mean, that's just the way it was. So Wade, like you said, kind of like what you said, it was him. Even when Shaq was there and they won the championship with Shaq, when he went to Miami, it was still the Wade show because Shaq at that point was not Shaq. He wasn't Shaq out of L.A. or anything like that. So it was still the Wade show. It was just, when LeBron got there, I feel like it was like a weight lifted off of his shoulders. And I don't know if he just didn't feel like he needed to do as much or if it was just Wade was just already falling apart and deteriorating.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't have to carry as much weight. I mean, that's just, that's part of the reason Wade went out and went on his crusade to get Bosh and LeBron. That's why they did these meetings and, he got him down there. Wade knew that before his career was done, what he wanted to get accomplished. And that's what ultimately had happened in Miami. Those guys got together. They accomplished some goals that they went after. They went after what they wanted, and, they got that done. So, LeBron, I think, feels satisfied with what he did in Miami and what they had accomplished enough to move back home to do one for, to do a solid for his team. That said, within 8 hours of LeBron announcing that, the announcement of LeBron coming back to Cleveland, Cleveland sells out of season tickets within 8 hours. So all of a sudden, Cleveland franchises are banking. Cleveland Browns, Cleveland Cavs, both of them right now are loaded because they got two studs back in the city. All of a sudden, Cleveland went from being the armpit of America to that nice, freshly shaved JJ that you look at on in a porn mag. I mean, it's like all of a sudden it's so. I just don't get it. Cleveland has went from being something awful to all of a sudden it's going to be star-studded. And
what about the Indians? The Indians have looked, in baseball, they've looked really good this year. I mean, holy crap, they got fans calling them the Windians. I mean, how often have you ever heard the Cleveland Indians called the Windians? I mean, it's nuts up in Cleveland, and the fans are excited about LeBron coming back. They're excited about Johnny Manziel as long as he's not snorting coke in a bathroom. There's a lot to be excited about if you're a Cleveland fan. For the first time since the 60s when the Browns won the Super Bowl? I mean, my goodness. I mean, Cleveland is a hopping place right now. And I'm not saying they're going to win a championship in the next 2 or 3 years. But I think the Browns are definitely headed in the right direction. LeBron's going back to Cleveland. They're definitely headed in the right direction. LeBron has still got plenty of years left in his prime. It's just who are they going to get around him, which brings you to a good point. Where does Kevin Love go? At one point Kevin Love was slated to go to the Celtics. I mean, they were Celtics. He said he wanted to play there. He's in Fenway catching a Red Sox game with Rondo. Now Cleveland had offered him at first. They said, hey, you want to come play here? And he was like, I'm not signing with you guys. There's no way I'm signing. Why would he? I mean, they're not. They didn't have any star power. Now LeBron's there. They're trying to clear cap space. The Celtics helped them out to get LeBron. You got him taking over some contract salaries. So if they can somehow entice, and get Kevin Love there, that's a nasty roster, man. But the Celtics are a team that's still going after Kevin Love. That's the only two teams that I know that are obviously a lot of teams want to go after him, but that are realistically able to get him are the Celtics and the Cavs. If you're Kevin Love, do you take the route to go to Cleveland with LeBron, team up with LeBron there, or do you go the route with the Celtics, where the Celtics are really young too, just like Cleveland is, other than LeBron? Yeah, I mean, they got James Young, Marcus Smart, Rondo, Avery Bradley, still very young. You got a Brandon Bass, you got Jeff Green. Obviously, some of these players aren't going to be there. They get Kevin Love, but the Celtics are also stacked on picks. They got picks for days. So what deal is going to be good enough for Minnesota to say, hey, I'm going to pull the trigger here? If I'm Kevin Love, I don't know where I'm going. That's a tough choice.
I don't know, man. If I'm Kevin Love, I go to Cleveland, and I go to Cleveland because I know you're a Celtics fan, not busting on the Celtics, but I know there's talk about Celtics and when should they move Rondo? When should Rondo be gone? There's been a lot of questions surrounding Rondo and staying with Boston. If I'm Kevin Love and my goal is to win the championship soon, I go to Cleveland.
No question.
But if I'm Kevin Love and Boston is a childhood love, there's something there that I've got to feel then I go to Boston. But for me personally, if I'm sitting there and I'm Kevin Love and I'm looking at the roster, the young talent that Cleveland's got, they may not do it this year, but they sure as hell can do it next year. And you get somebody like that, you get these guys playing, you get some of these young guys a little bit better, they come back. I mean, to me, if I'm Kevin Love, I go to Cleveland. There's no questions about it. Why the hell do you stay in Minnesota? There's nothing in Minnesota but 5
Minnesota's not winning a championship. I mean, holy crap, they couldn't even win a championship when Garnett was there. Let's be honest. I mean,
no.
If I'm Kevin Love, I mean,
prime, in his youth, in his prime.
Yes, in his youth, not Kevin Garnett. Not Kevin Garnett in his older days now with the Brooklyn Nets. We're talking Kevin Garnett when he was a monster, won an MVP. I mean, I'm looking at it. If I'm Kevin Love, I want to go to Cleveland to win a championship. Obviously the goal is to win a championship. There's no question about it. If you don't want to win a championship, why the hell are you even playing? So, it seems easier. If you're going to take the easy road, you're going to go to Cleveland. If I'm Danny Ainge, if Rondo is even hinting at possibly leaving next year, if he's like, I want out of Boston, because, I mean, everybody's acting like, well, Rondo's still young. Yeah, he's 27 now. He's still young, but the lifespan of an NBA player, it's not as short as NFL players are, but you're still not promised tomorrow. So Rondo, if he feels that, hey, I'm not going to win a championship in Boston for the next 5-6 years, and then by that time I'm going to be out of my prime. If I'm Danny Ainge, I'm pulling the trigger on Rondo. I'm going to trade him while I can, while I got him, because there's no way in hell I'm letting Rondo walk next year. So my thing is this. If Rondo is going to walk, they're going to trade him. Then Kevin Love is definitely not coming to Boston. Let's just be honest. Rondo's, without question, the greatest player on the Boston Celtics roster right now. There's just no arguments with that. So with him leaving, if Rondo leaves or gives, he decides he wants to leave next year, Danny Ainge better trade him right away. And then Kevin Love's definitely taking the road to Cleveland. So we know that Kevin Love's not going to be staying in Minnesota. So, yeah, I agree with you. I'm going to Cleveland if I'm Kevin Love.
Well, you look at, it's really funny that once, and we speculated on this. I mean, everybody did. Everybody under the sun, even your armchair quarterback, point guard, whatever you want to call them, your typical fan knew that once LeBron made his decision, the chips would start falling in place for all these other deals. A lot of people were waiting to see what would happen with LeBron. And then the Phoenix Suns and the Kings are basically agreeing on they're finalizing a sign and trade deal for Isaiah Thomas. I think it's going to be a 4-year, $27 million deal. So, I mean, that's about to go down. I like the fact that Allen is probably going to go to Cleveland. I like that because I think Ray Allen's still got something in the tank, and he's got something he can teach these young guys. And that's what you have to have for to build up a dynasty in any sport. You have to have seasoned vets that can show these young, talented guys the ropes. Coming in. I mean, that's the reason why you've had teams that have been dynasties over the years, like New England in football. The Boston Celtics way back when, and then recently when they had Pierce and those guys. I mean, you got to think about that. I mean, and that's the reason why the Boston is still relevant today because of what they left behind, Pierce and Garnett and those guys, what they left behind, and of course some trades. But for me, right now, I'm ready for all this free agency stuff, Brent, to kind of settle down because I want to see what the landscape looks like when it's all said and done. Because in all honesty, when this is said, and basketball is so much different from football because in reality, basketball, you can have a playmaker on a team of 5, and that one playmaker makes all the difference in the world on whether or not you get to the finals or not. And and that's pretty obvious. I know it's a Captain Obvious statement, but it's just that the fact is that we have once the dust settles, we are really going to have a good idea of who's possibly going to be vying for the championship next season, and we sure the hell know it's not Miami now. But Cleveland is looking really pretty for next season. You got a few other teams out there that are looking good. Houston's trying to make a run at some people. LA is another team that's gonna try to make some runs. Chicago, of course, is trying to make some runs at people. But when it's all said and finished, right now it looks like Cleveland is sitting on a high horse, man.
Yeah, I mean, Cleveland looks like they're the clear favorite to win the East next year. Even I'm not saying they're going to win the finals. I still don't think that anybody at this point can beat the Spurs, regardless of what everybody else wants to say. The Spurs are a well-oiled machine, and as long as Popovich is running the show there, they're going to be my favorites until Tim Duncan retires, till Ginobili can't even play anymore, and Parker, is gone. They're just going to be the favorites, in my opinion. I don't see that Cleveland team. If the Miami Heat couldn't beat them in a 7-game series this year, and they almost lost the year before that to them, I don't see the Cavaliers with what they have constructed, even with a Kevin Love being able to compete with the Spurs chemistry that they have going on. But once the Spurs are no longer the Spurs that we know them, I can see Cleveland being the favorites for a couple of years. Then you got to start looking at Oklahoma City. What is Oklahoma City going to do, man? You got KD and Russell Westbrook. Everybody's saying that those two can't coexist together. So where are they going to sit whenever they become free agents? Where is Russell Westbrook going to go? Is he going to leave? Is KD going to stay there? Is he going to leave? So the NBA is definitely, in my opinion, looking very interesting over the next couple of years. And then you got teams like the Wizards. I mean, the Wizards they're coming on strong. I mean, they got Beal, they got Wall, Gortat's still there, playing well. So the Wizards, in my opinion, are a team that you have to look at. Not to be Eastern Conference, not making it to Eastern Conference Finals or anything like that, but they can get stronger. Can they kind of look at Kevin Durant? Kevin Durant's from Washington. You're sitting here talking about people coming home. KD, hey, if I'm Washington, if I'm the Wizards, hey man, we're still here. So that it's going to be real interesting over the next couple of years.
Yeah, man, I just got a tweet, but LeBron is talking to Mike Miller out of Memphis. He's trying to coach him up to coming into Cleveland. So Mike Miller kind of adds a twist, So does that lead you to believe that Kevin Love is still going to end up in Cleveland if LeBron is talking to Mike Miller?
You know, Mike Miller, you know, LeBron's going to get anything he wants. LeBron, if he wants Mike Miller, then Mike Miller is probably going to be on a roster in a Cleveland uniform. I mean, that's just the way it is. So, you know, I don't know, man. Do you really want a Mike Miller, though? I mean, unless you only plan on playing. I mean, he's not going to play major minutes anyways, but you want to talk about not having any defense? I mean, Mike Miller's a sneeze away from falling completely apart. I think Ray Allen is that guy that I would rather have over Mike Miller. If you can get both, great. I mean, if they can, you know, somehow get both of those guys in there, that's terrific. Good for Cleveland. But if you can only choose one or the other, I'm still going to take Ray Allen's shot over Mike Miller's. I mean, Mike Miller had, you know, he's hit some big shots for Miami in the playoffs when he was with them, but I just don't see him being, you know, there's no way I'm taking Mike Miller over over Ray Allen.
You go after Kevin Love, but I guess what I'm trying to get at is if LeBron is talking to Mike Miller, does that lead you to believe that, you know, that there's been a falling out with Kevin Love in the negotiation for Cleveland?
Well, you know, if I'm LeBron, Chad, I'm not worried about Mike Miller. I'm worried about Kevin Love, which is exactly what you're trying to get at. What the hell is LeBron thinking? Like, why aren't you recruiting Kevin Love? Why aren't you not sending him tweets or texts or anything like that saying, dude, come to Cleveland, bro. We need some rebounding. We need something. Yeah, they got Anderson Varejao, but he's no Kevin Love. I mean, you know, so I don't know, man. That's weird. I would much rather have Kevin Love or Mike Miller, but who am I to say that?
All right. Here's another one. Just, you know, I'm reading through. I'm getting messages and stuff. So I've been reading through messages as we've been doing the show, and Byron Scott has officially been endorsed by Kobe. So, you know, Byron Scott as the next head coach of the Lakers. What do you think?
I don't know, man. I mean, Kobe's one of those weird cats. You know, Celtic fans don't really like the Lakers. I respect Kobe. I respect what he's done over his career. I don't know, man. Kobe also, if everybody has short memory loss, Kobe also endorsed what's his name to come in, Mike D'Antoni. Everybody's like, oh no, he didn't. Yes, he did. He said he was totally fine with Mike D'Antoni coming in. Obviously, you know, he would probably rather had Phil come back. Phil was set to come back. You know, we wouldn't even be talking about the Knicks and Phil Jackson if he would have, you know, they would have took Phil back. But Byron Scott, one of those guys, you know, he hasn't really, in my opinion, done that spectacular as a coach. So I don't really know if I'm a Laker fan or anybody in the Laker locker room if I would want Byron Scott. I mean, there's not, you know, there's not that many other coaches out there, in my opinion. But I don't know if that's gonna work, man. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I'd go after a guy like that. I would, but who else are they gonna get?
Well, here's the thing, man, and this is what Kobe's about. Kobe is about getting somebody in there that he knows that he can control within the organization. Kobe is pretty much, I mean, we know that by now. Everybody under the sun knows it by now. You know, when it comes to the LA Lakers, Kobe is one of the guys who has the final say. You know, I mean, that's just the way it is. So you look at Kobe endorsing Byron Scott as the coach, it's probably because they have some type of good working relationship. He knows that Byron's not going to step on his toes. You know, Kobe's going to be able to do his thing, and Kobe's going to have a say in what happens with this team. That's really what that probably boils down to me more than anything else. And so I think that with Kobe coming out with that endorsement, that's just going to put pressure on the front office to make a move. And, you know, we may see that happen, we may not, who knows. But, you know, kind of moving on away from NBA, free agency, you know, and all that. I'm LeBron'd out. I'm free agency out right now. I've had enough of this stuff. So moving on, I got news today, this afternoon, and we may or may not have a lot of SEC people that are watching, but, you know, I got news today about Nick Marshall, the quarterback for Auburn. a 3,000-yard guy, a guy who's put up over 1,000 yards on the ground and put up over 2,000 yards rushing, played in the national championship against Florida State, gets cited today for what? Marijuana, and he also got cited for tinted windows. So, basically the citation wasn't warranted enough for him to get the arrest because what he had was below an ounce. So he had grams from reading the report. And for all you weed heads out there, you'll know more about that than I do. So for me, here's the thing. Earlier this year, in June or July, Mincy got arrested. I believe it was in June. And Mincy's one of the players for Auburn. Got arrested due to marijuana. Gus Malzahn went quiet on it. Hadn't said anything, hadn't addressed it. Well, guess what? Monday's SEC Media Days, and he's up first Monday, so he's going to get some. So people are going to be asking about it. Marshall's supposed to be there too. Now, whether or not he gets to speak at the podium on Monday is going to be a different story. So anyways, long story short, will Malzahn do anything to Marshall?
No.
Because of this. Yeah. And I agree with you. I don't think he does anything, and I'll tell you why. Because August 30th, they have an SEC matchup right off the bat to kick the season off. Do you take your starting quarterback, who is a potential Heisman candidate, even though I'm not 100% in agreement with that? I mean, he's a great quarterback. But you got a guy who basically is going to lead your offense. You don't take him off your roster going in up against an SEC West opponent that you don't want to lose to, because if you do, you may be out of the SEC West picture.
Yeah, and he's not Johnny Manziel. They Johnny Manziel. Remember last year they suspended him for the first game against Rice. Pretty much. Come on, the first half. The first half, and he comes in, plays about a quarter,
yeah.
And then this is what that was. That was a slap on the wrist. That's all it was. If I'm Auburn, I'm giving him a slap on the wrist by saying, no, don't ever do that again, and then that's it. I know everybody gets mad when they hear, oh, you gotta treat everybody equal. Well, that's not the sports world. He's gonna get a slap on the wrist. They're gonna tell him, don't ever do that again. Be smart. And then it's going to be forgotten when he throws for like 5 touchdowns in the first game or so some crazy crap like that. So, if I'm Auburn, I'm not suspended. There's no way. If I can get around it from the NCAA without giving them any type of suspension or anything like that, I'm not suspending them. That's just me. If I'm Gus Malzahn, I'm just like, nope, Marshall's staying. He just made a mistake. He's a college kid. He hasn't gotten in trouble. He hasn't stole crab legs from a supermarket, so I'm not doing anything to him.
Yeah, but and here's the thing, man. Malzahn won't touch it, and to me it's wrong that he's not going to. I know he's not going to because and Auburn fans are very passionate. You will get hate mail from Auburn fans for even talking about this in a negative light. They will find out your home address and they will send you home. They will send you hate mail written in encrypted lettering that you think is a puzzle, but it's actually that Southern spelling they learned in school. So the thing is that you have programs like Texas A&M where Sumlin, he dismissed his players. He dismissed an all-SEC linebacker, a defensive tackle, and a secondary guy on a defense that was absolutely atrocious last season. But you know what? He upheld the character of his team and what his team stand for, and he got rid of those guys. Same thing with Mark Richt, with Pruitt coming in from Florida State. You've had several guys that have been dismissed, that have went on or transferred, basically were dismissed from the Georgia secondary. They've all found new homes. One of them, of course, that was tied in with the whole arrest situation that had happened earlier in the spring ends up at Auburn with Gus Malzahn, coincidentally. So, to me, I think Gus is one of those guys that if I don't talk about it, it won't, it'll go away. kind of thing. I get that feeling because he's not talking about the Mincy situation. I promise you he's going to get grilled on Monday by 2,000 media members about what's happening with Marshall. So I don't care for Malzahn, man. I'm gonna be straight up with you. I'm not a big fan of Malzahn because I think he's kind of sneaky sometimes, and I think this is one of those situations where he's going to do whatever he can to kind of get this thing blown off and not have to deal with it, right?
I'm with you. I'm with you 100%. I don't think anything is going to happen to him. I think these athletes need to be held accountable for their actions. You make a dumbass mistake, you should be held accountable. If me and you make a dumbass mistake, we're not going to have somebody come and be like, no, man, it's just a slap on the wrist and help us out. No, I mean, we're going to be on our own. So I'm not saying that, if he's got a supporting cast, obviously I would hope that they help him, but, there should be no more slaps on the wrist. And which leads us to our segment that we're going to do weekly. Every week we're going to do a smart ass and a dumbass of the week. Chad, I don't know if you got one ready, but my dumbass for the week, it didn't happen this week, but I'm kind of doing a duo. It's going to be kind of combined together. I'm giving mine to Josh Gordon and P.J. Hairston. Both of them been in major trouble. P.J. Hairston pretty much kicked out of Carolina, goes to the D-League, succeeds, pretty much gets a new fresh start when he gets drafted. He was drafted by the Heat, but they gave that away with the Shabazz Napier deal to Charlotte, so he got to stay home. And then he comes back and gets in a fight at a YMCA pickup game. Why are you playing YMCA pickup and you're about to be in the NBA? Total dumbass. Josh Gordon was with P.J. Hairston when they got cited for the DUI here in North Carolina. Total dumbass. Already suspended for the year in the NFL. And then you're gonna get cited for DUI. Yeah, they were like, oh, he was barely over the legal limit. You're a superstar. You can pay for a cab to take you back to wherever the hell you're going to. Complete dumbass. Just total dumbass. I don't understand it, man. I don't get it. He's killing his NFL career. If I'm the Cleveland Browns, you already got one dumbass on the team in Johnny Manziel. I hate to be that blunt, but he's not being too smart. But at least he's like, hey, I'm still really young. He's still got his whole career ahead of him. Whereas, Gordon's been in the league a couple of years now. So, to me, those are my dumbasses of the week.
Yeah, man, kind of spinning off of that. Mine really kind of earlier last week. We didn't get a chance to talk about it last week, but hands down, the dumbass of the week award goes to Manziel for simply thinking that he can do anything without somebody flashing a camera on him, man. Brent, there's nothing that kid can do without somebody pulling out a cell phone, and he's got to realize that. He should know that by now. With what he went through at Texas A&M, and now that he has become an NFL player, I get the feeling like he doesn't give a rat's ass, which is fine, but your NFL career is not going to last very long because the front office is going to get rid of you. And there are moral clauses within those contracts that these players sign. So, I mean, there is, if he gets too out of hand, they'll find a way to get him out. Whatever he was doing with the dollar bills, rolling them up like that, playing 1970s disco, whatever. I mean, it's, if you want to put that junk up your nose and go ahead, and that's pure speculation. We don't know that he did it. But I'm just saying, if you're running with those kind of people, your career is not going to last very long. Dumbass number two, since you did the duo, I'll give you number two. I'm definitely going with Nick Marshall, man.
Nick, you have to. Yeah, you can't. It's stupid. It's so stupid. And to get back to the Manziel thing really quickly, that you mentioned that you get drafted by Cleveland, you stay on the board way longer than what you thought he was. I mean, come on, dude. He was sweating bullets. He was like, well, what's going on here? What's going on?
And I'll text me, draft me, please. Draft me.
He gets drafted by Cleveland. Cleveland is clearly a place that has been on a downfall with regards to all their sports, but especially the Browns. I mean, they've had terrible experience with drafting quarterbacks in the first round. So you draft a guy like Johnny Manziel, knowing his history, knowing what he's gone through, knowing he's a cocky son of a bitch, and then they tell him, "Hey man, you need to cool it. You need to chill out." And he still goes on a July 4th vacation to Vegas. I'm not saying he can't have fun. He's an NFL player. He's got tons of money. He can do whatever he wants with his money. But he still has to respect that the Cleveland Browns drafted him not to go to Vegas and hang out, especially since training camp's getting ready to come up, not to get photographed in a bathroom rolling up a $20 bill, whatever the heck he was going to do with that, we don't know. I mean, he could have, for all we know, he could have been saving that for cab money. But dude, you gotta be smart in that. So I totally agree with you. He's definitely, him and Nick Marshall are good ones. The smart ass of the week for me, the guy that made the smart decision. I hate to do this with my Celtic pride, but I have to put it aside. I have to give it to Dan Gilbert, and I have to say he did everything that he could do to get LeBron. He made deals, the three-way trade to clear up cap space. He drafted Wiggins. Hooray for him making a good move this year. Drafted Anthony Bennett last year. No reason or no idea why he did that, but drafted Wiggins, cleared cap space. He gets the king to come back to his throne. Good for him, and good kudos to Dan Gilbert for doing that.
Yeah, I give it hats off to Dan Gilbert, man. Just the decision making that was done. Not only that, the fact that him and LeBron actually met face to face, he was willing to do that, and they squashed whatever they had between them face to face. I respect that. I think Dan Gilbert, he was smart, unlike some of the other owners that we've had to read about this year. I just think that he's willing to do what's right to get his team and do something for the city. They're coming together to do something for the city, and I think that's great. And I will tell you this: the Cleveland fan base better enjoy it, man, because between football and basketball, come on, man, that city's going to be alive from here on out. The city is going to thrive on its sports.
Oh yeah, the economy in Cleveland just went up a lot. But before we wrap it up, I do have to say this. Dan Gilbert, when he made his crazy letter, wrote the letter and everything and that knowledge, put it on the website. It's been up on the website there for ever since he left. I appreciate that he put that to the side. And basically was like, he was tweeting out today, I couldn't be more happy for LeBron to be coming back here. It shows that not only did LeBron mature over the years, but Dan Gilbert kind of matured. You can still be, no matter how old you are, you can still mature. There's no question about it. You're never too old to learn from mistakes. And I think he really learned from that and was like, LeBron leaving really hurt this city, especially with all the downfalls they've had with sports teams. But he definitely matured. He definitely was, put aside all the hatred that he had towards him and was like, look, I know you can come here and win. You can come here, you can make the Cavs good again, and I want to do it together. So I appreciate that for sure.
Mm-hmm. I agree, man.
But that just about does it, Chad. It's been a great segment tonight. Definitely a great first episode for us. Definitely everybody make sure you go follow us on Facebook, Wise Ass Sports. You can find us on there. Constantly keeping you updated on everything sports-wise, NFL, NBA, NHL, NCAA football, basketball, you name it. We got it. Next week or our next show coming up, definitely going to probably be talking a little bit of World Cup. Definitely looking forward to talking about that. Very interesting, final game between Argentina and Germany. So definitely looking forward to talking about that. And anything else that pops up, Chad, I've really enjoyed it, buddy. Definitely looking forward to the next show.
All right, man. You guys peace out. It's Wise Ass Radio.